Good morning, good morning, good morning.
It is still morning
It is
for a
still
little
morning.
longer.
It's still morning. We had to push out a little bit,
That's
but it's
okay.
all good. It's all good. Nobody was hurt.
No, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but Sundays in our house are a lot happens on a Sunday. And then on Sunday night, there's a lot of like the Sunday blues because everybody has to go to work or school the next day. We stayed up a little bit later than we should have. So when I woke up this morning and it was like the sun wasn't coming up because it was raining,
Uh-huh.
I was just like, oh, I don't know if there's enough coffee in the world. But we ended up watching last night. Did you know on Disney Plus you can do a group view where you can invite family that don't live in your house to watch something with you, and the app will actually like sync up whatever you're watching so you're watching it at the same time.
That's so cool. No,
Yeah,
no.
so we had Kayla on the iPad and then the rest of us were at the house and we watched Encanto, which was really beautiful.
You are late to the game. When you
I
have a
know.
5-year-old, day one, you watch that movie. Boom.
We are late to the game without question. We're late to the game. But I wanted to share like a really cool fact. I have a friend that is a choreographer, um, and she said that all there were many different styles of Hispanic cultures that were represented in the movie, and that
Uh-huh.
they were accurately depicting the music and the dance styles. So like if you know those, if you are aware of those things, like she was blown away by how accurate it was
That's
for
pretty
an
awesome.
animated movie. So yeah,
I
so it
did.
made me respect it even more. And the music is great.
So for our highlight, we basically introduce either a restaurant, movie, something that's going on in Cedar Park, Leander, or Central Austin. And we wanted to bring your restaurant because you guys just took over this amazing restaurant called Red River Cafe, right?
Yes.
Tell us a
So,
little bit of how that's going. When did you guys take over? And how's it going so far?
okay. Red River Cafe opened like 4 years ago, and it was closed when COVID starts. So the last owner decided to sell the restaurant, but the restaurant is pretty famous around the UT. There's like a student spot, you know. So so we were really excited about buying this restaurant because have a lot of history. It's like a really traditional Austin restaurant, and um, and I really like the people that is going there because we have like a lot of people like they know the restaurant like it was like some years ago, and then all the new students are coming, so it's really and also the servers are students, so the restaurant have like this welcoming thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course, of course. Hey, so it's mainly known for breakfast, lunch, dinners.
Yeah, tell us about
Yeah.
the
So
menu.
we serve restaurants, sorry, breakfast all day, and but also we have some choices for dinner and lunch. Right now we are opening 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. But we are thinking to have more hours in service, like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. maybe on February. So so yes, it's famous because the breakfast, the brunch, and we are going to put some dinner in the menu too.
Oh man, that is awesome. So for all of those who don't know, um, Norma, you're originally just moved in to Austin from what part of Mexico?
We're from Mexico City, but we used to have our restaurants in San Luis Potosí. So we were thinking there we have a tacos brand restaurant, and we were thinking to do the same thing here. But when we found out this restaurant, we changed our mind and we go for something new.
Awesome.
So yeah.
That is cool. So this restaurant's located between, it's downtown basically, right? It's right next to UT.
Yes, it's just in the middle in to the UT, like where is this the UT stadium? Like
Yeah.
in that, and it's in the medium of the UT and the residence of the students. So we have a lot of students there, and also I think it's behind the Sand, uh, a really big
St.
hospital that
Davis
we
Medical
have in the
Center.
35. Yeah,
St. Davis Medical Center. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, that one. Yeah,
I have a good idea where it is. It's basically on, I think it's called Medical Arts, the street, right? Medical Arts. Is it driveway or
yeah,
street?
yeah. Medical Arts Street.
Street.
Oh, that's really
Yeah.
close to Tom. That is so close to Tom. I cannot wait to tell him.
I know.
Oh, thank you.
We need to go have some breakfast over there. What do you recommend? Which one's the best? Which
Yeah,
one's your
tell us what
favorite
to
plate?
get.
So everybody said that the hash browns are that we have the more amazing hash browns in Austin, but actually the buttermilk pancakes are pretty famous there, and we have like a lot of choices. Like you can have omelet, you can have like a we have a French toast with blueberries. We have like everything. Also, we have some tacos, but it's not like Tex-Mex tacos, and they're pretty famous too.
So they're the real deal tacos?
Not like Mexican tacos, but Tex-Mex tacos.
Oh, they're Tex-Mex tacos.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, cool. That's awesome. We need to make set up a time so we can go and visit you guys.
Yes.
Yeah, it's going to be
Breakfast
amazing.
house.
Welcome anytime.
Thank
I
you so
would
much.
love that.
So what topic do we have today? Talk to me.
Well, the topic is, it's just a really small one. It's just super tiny. It's just, parenting.
Really small. Really small. We're gonna try to keep this within 5 minutes because there's not gonna be too much material.
Right.
But man, where do we start? I mean, God. What are like the hot topics right now for parenting?
My bit of advice in general is that I feel like we are designed to hold only the information that we need at that moment. And I also feel like we're designed to forget certain things, because if I remembered all of the adorable, sweet, beautiful moments I had of my three, who are now mostly grown, I would be sad and crying all day long. If that was like in the front of my memory, just remembering how cute they were and the cute little things they said and did, I think we forget on purpose. I think it's like a self-protection mechanism. So that's my overall like parenting advice. It's like, I think you have what you need in the moment and not to worry ahead.
Okay.
Boom.
So this is from your perspective. For me, the people that know me, I do spreadsheets for everything. My thing is financial. Like if I want to make sure that I'm ready for something, and I need to run down the numbers because everything for me is So before having a baby, we I used to put down everything, like what we used to spend over 1 month, over 1 week, and make sure that we were going to be able to afford this baby. So the first tip will be, you're never going to be ready. You're economically is just take that out of the picture. Get ready. Just get ready the best you can and take it from there. But if you're waiting for the right moment when you think you're financially going to be ready for it, it's just not going to happen. So
Well, okay, and let me ask you this: wouldn't you say, okay, so budgeting pre having that first baby, wouldn't you say your budget changed drastically? And I don't mean just all the baby stuff, but like your priorities shift. So where you thought maybe I need this money for this, this, and this, once the baby's there, that might not even be something you care about anymore. So it is interesting how I remember trying to plan to make sure we had enough, like we wanted to have enough, which we were super poor. We were living like in this little 1-bedroom apartment in Chicago when we had Kayla. We had financially, no one would have said, sure, have a baby. But luckily for Kayla, we had her anyway. But I think your priorities change and like you figure it out.
Of course. You just you work harder, you figure it out. It's just like a house, actually. There's a lot of people that are really, really nervous of buying a house. Oh, it's gonna be my first house. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to afford it. But at the end of the day, you figure it out. You're not gonna let the house, you're not gonna let the lender take over it again. So you do your best, and you'll figure it out for sure. Hundo TP.
Yeah, absolutely. I think some regrets I have. I mean, and I guess I feel like I should say most people watching this probably already know this about us. But like my kids are 24, 22, and 17. So I really am like at the tail. I'm almost an empty nester. Although I have found very recently that they can always come home. Like parenting does not end at 18 by any means. I feel like the best gift you can give them is that they feel safe enough to like fly away at 18, but then you got to create a space that makes them feel like they could still come home if they need to. They've always got that like comfort, that nest to come home to. But Tom and I, because we were struggling financially, we didn't get those like the date nights together. We didn't take trips without the kids. Those are my regrets looking back. Like I know that we gave everything we could to our kids and we did the best we could. I know we messed up and we weren't perfect. The joke is like, do the best you can and pay for therapy later. Like that's the joke. And yeah, I mean, that's sort of how I feel is like we did the best we could with what we had and what we knew at the time. But that is my one regret is actually for my poor husband. Like we didn't have family close by, and then we didn't have the money to be able to bring in a babysitter on a regular basis. And Tom was sometimes working 2 or 3 jobs, like performing all the time on top of the teaching to help us financially. So,
but this brings me to a really good question, and this is a question that me and my wife had when Alexandra was first born, and we're talking about 5 years ago, right? So, okay, do we want to go and find different jobs, maybe have 2, 3 jobs just to be able to pay for daycare? Or does one of us want to stay here at the house and be able to raise the kid being raised by you versus somebody in daycare and save that money versus having to, again, work 2 or 3 jobs?
I think that I've certainly have had friends where they were both working a ton and then trying to pay for the childcare, and then like an accountant sat down with them and helped them figure out that it was actually they would save money by one of them staying home. Like that's definitely happened. We as like just philosophically as a family, Tom and I wanted one of us to stay home. So that was a choice we made. But I also have very good friends that I love very much that were not like could not find really peace with being a stay-at-home parent. So it was really important to them to be a working parent, and they have great relationships with their kids, and their kids are amazing. And studies have shown that it's both is okay. You can have great relationships. Selfishly, I just didn't want to miss anything. I mean, that was me. I didn't want to miss a single moment. My mom, and my mom was home for me. And I have memories of like being really, really little and having my mom be around. Yeah. So that was one of the sacrifices we made for sure, was that. And it was hard because it made finances more tight for sure.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, balance it out. What was more important, being tight with money or being able to live those beautiful moments with your kid,
Well, okay. See, that's a perfect segue to something interesting that came up in our house recently, is that I was thinking, I was feeling kind of bad for our older two, because my youngest is now living in a home that has more stability. We're more kind of relaxed about our lives. There's a flow, even though it's COVID. I mean, that part's tough, a pandemic.
Yeah, of course.
But there's like a flow and an ease here now. And I would think back to like the chaotic times when all three were home and they were all little. And so I would, I was thinking, oh, he's got it good. Like he's got his parents to himself. Our lives focus around like making sure he's good. And he actually said the opposite. He was telling me that he misses the chaos of when they were all little and his siblings were here. And he didn't feel that stress that Tom and I had of how hard it was to have like, all of them and managing all their different things. What he remembers is having like his family around, and he remembers it as being happy. And I actually part of me is happy about that because I think, okay, so he didn't feel all that stress. He felt like a loving home, which is all I ever wanted.
Amazing, yeah.
But then I was also kind of sad. I was like, oh, but I guess he's like, here he is a junior in high school and he's missing it. But we're morphing into seeing them create relationships as adults is my favorite thing. Nothing makes me happier now than hearing my grown kids laughing hysterically together. Even if I'm the brunt of the joke, I don't care. That laughter is just gold.
Yeah, true. So let me ask you a question, because I have a 5-year-old. Obviously, your kids are grown up already. But from your oldest to your youngest one, the discipline, the time where you needed to be tough, how did that play out? Were you, because you learned with the first one. I mean, that my parents learned with me. My brother got it so easy, and he still complains about it, right? Like, oh, what are you talking about? You had it easy. No, you had it easy. And it's ongoing fight, never finished. But they don't know, the young ones, the young blood, they have no idea how easy they had it. Did your punishment change from how you were raising your oldest one to your youngest one? Or was it always the same?
There's lots of books about like parenting with love and logic. I would say that's kind of how we shifted, was less about like, you will do this and you will do this because the Bible says this and the Bible sets up the family like this. And Kayla was like rattling that cage from the time she was a newborn. She was she didn't follow anything they said a newborn would do. She didn't do. She was very, very hard to raise. She was even down to her birth. Like her birth, she was coming down like sunny side up. And so I pushed for 3 hours. And that was like, that just sums up her whole personality. She's just she's going to question everything. But why? But why? But why? So we changed a lot. And I think I got to a place of trying to, because look, my generation, we were definitely raised on because I said so. Like I'm the parent, so because I said so. And parents didn't apologize to kids because parents were never wrong. They couldn't be seen as fallible. Now my parents apologized to me sometimes, but in general, it was not all the time. I apologize to my kids.
You clarify, because they're going to see this podcast, or they're going to hear you, and you're going to be getting a call pretty soon. It's like, what?
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Yes, I should. For the record, my parents. I think obviously, I think my parents did a great job. I knew I was loved unconditionally. I never had a question about that. I have such great memories from growing up, and good memories with my little brother. And but I do think in general, it was, parents, they set up an authority, and then you didn't want to seem weak by coming back and saying, I was wrong.
Even when they were wrong, they can't go back.
Yeah. But if I think about it, then I think about like my grandparents, and that makes sense to me, because I think they were kind of the same way, where I definitely learned along the way to eat a lot of humble pie and just let my kids know when I mess up. There's this one involves, it involves when we were selling our house. So you'll get a kick out of this, David. The one story that Liam never lets me live down is that when we were showing our house, I had a whole little, like I had a little checklist of here's the things, like if we get a call for a showing or a text, we have to do these things. So like we would go to the fridge and I would be like, you go this, you do that. And one of them was like the last person to use the bathroom would take a towel and like wipe it down so that there wasn't water sitting in the sink or like making it look dirty. And we were in a super big rush. And I went to double check like the little powder room on the way out, and there was water in it.
Oh,
And I thought, I got in the car and I'm not proud of it, but I screamed at Liam, like screamed so ridiculously to the point that like my level of anger and frustration for the seeming offense of water in a sink was ridiculous. And he kept saying, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. And I was like, it was your job. Obviously it was you. And I mean, I was like, I'll pull this car over. I mean, I was like,
wow.
ridiculous.
But
I was very stressed about
You were
something.
stressed out. Yeah, that has to be stressed.
I was
You
very
have
stressed
to
out.
be stressed
But
out.
it did turn out that it was my husband who had used the bathroom on the way out, and not so Liam was innocent and not deserving of all of that. So he likes to bring that up all the time.
That's something that I learned over here in the US, that you are innocent until proven guilty.
So Tao, how was it different for you?
Oh, for me, it was completely different. So, oh man, I used to get spanked big time. And I'm talking spanked. And you know, I'm going to talk about it just a little bit. I'm not going to go too much into detail. My dad was really the one that punished me. My mom would just she would try to punish, but I was running a little bit faster than her, and she could never get to me. I will run around the dining room table, and she'll get so mad that she would actually cry because she couldn't get to me. The only way that she could try to get to me is that she'll pull her chancla, one of these, and then throw it at me. And by the time she threw it, I'll have to dunk. Once I dunk, she will she will start running after me and almost get a hold of me. But since she couldn't, my dad was the one that, and I needed to pray that my dad would had a good day at work, because it was a bad day. It would be worse for me. It's not, and it's funny that we're talking about the subject, because on Christmas, he actually, grabbed me to the side and said, "Hey, listen, I want to apologize for the way that," and I didn't, for me, to be honest, I think that if I wouldn't have been punished, if I wouldn't have been punished at all, I would have turned out to be a little bit different. So I'm grateful for the way I was raised, because it also helps me with my little one, what not to do. And sometimes when I see how, and again, this is my personal, right? There's no right or wrong. I just want to clarify that there's no right or wrong. You do you, and do your kids however you want to. They're your kids.
Right.
But I think there's a lot of families here where they gone soft, and kids are pretty much doing whatever they want with their parents nowadays. And that's the part where, oh man, if they would have grown up in my household, it would have been a whole different story. I mean, there's no respect to the parents nowadays. I don't know if this is why some kids are just completely out of reality. They just spend time playing games, and it's different. It's different. That's all I'm gonna say. But to each his own.
I think it's a pendulum, just like anything, whether it's politics or anything. Usually there's a swing, right? So I think parenting was so strict for a time, and then the next generation was like, well, I'm not going to do it like that. And I mean, you can even go back further, right? So like in the 40s and 50s, even 30s, 40s, and 50s, 1930s, 40s, 50s, they were living through wars, and they were strict and for different reasons. And then like the 60s and 70s happened, and it was like hippies and disco, and then it changed. Then I feel like you know, in the 80s and 90s, it was like a little bit more strict again. And so I just think it's the pendulum. So I think what we're seeing is our generation responding to a very, very strict parenting by going like too far the other way. So
Yeah, about that.
I agree. I agree. Um, I also think that it's a symptom of technology. Kids are accessing so much more. The parent, it's almost impossible to keep up. And I mean, we tried. I tried to always get on the same apps my kids were on, especially because Kayla is really the prime example of she was coming up with the technology. And there's a documentary called The Social Dilemma, which I think every parent should watch. It's
I
called
haven't seen it yet.
The
I heard
Social
of it, but I
Dilemma.
haven't seen it yet.
Changed our
But
lives. And actually, when my middle child watched it, like as a 20-year-old, he deleted his social apps. Like he was like, "Oh yeah, this is bad. I see that this is bad." But I realized that my daughter was literally of that generation that was coming up with it. We didn't know how dangerous it was, and so I remember trying to stay on top of it, but it's really hard. And so now there's all this talk of, you know, lots of school districts are trying to ban certain books. There's like I mean, school board meetings are turning into fights with parents and fights with parents and teachers. I mean, it has gotten ugly, which what kind of example are we setting for the kids when that's what they see? But my thought to that is it doesn't matter whether they have access to stuff in the library because first of all, it's going to be in a public library. So if they can't get
exactly.
it at school, it's going to be out there. And then I hate to tell you what your kids are seeing on the internet. Even if your child doesn't have access to your knowledge, kids will find a way.
There will be a way.
So,
Exactly.
so yeah, I think the best thing you can do is have just the most honest conversation, you know, with your kids. Like the healthier your relationship is, the more they're gonna come to you about things.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree with you. I agree with you on there and that part. And just wanted to throw something out there too that I heard some crazy stories where now parents that are trying to discipline their kids, especially here in the US, you know, if there's a slap, if there's a whatever it is, now you have kids calling 911, reporting their parents. I'm like, you're crazy. You do that in Mexico, oh my God, your mom's gonna kill you before the cops get home. It's so I don't know. It was mind blowing when I hear the stories because I was born and raised in a completely whole different culture. And there's always respect. There's always yes, ma'am, yes, dad, yes, mom, which helps out, to be honest, in a way, to have that discipline and respect because you also have it for other people as well. Whenever you go into a house, be
I was gonna
polite,
say,
you know.
even in our business, don't you find like you can see a difference? Some people are like there's a level of formality and kind of respect and communication and everything. You can see it's different, and sometimes it's age, but sometimes you can tell it's just backgrounds and everything. I wouldn't be fair to my parents if I didn't share this quick story, and that is that when I was, oh gosh, I don't know how old I was, but old enough to know, probably 11 or 12, and I got in trouble, and my parents, I was slamming the door so many times that they took the door off the hinges. And so I ran to the window and I threw it open and I started screaming, "Child abuse! Somebody
Oh,
help me!"
so what I'm hearing is basically your story.
It's what I did.
You
But I mean, the neighbors all knew that I was a terror, so they were on the side of my parents.
hilarious.
But I
But,
definitely
but
was
you
like,
don't know nowadays, Kristen. You don't know nowadays
oh, I
because you
know.
have that person that's walking through the neighborhood and she needs to save the world. And you know, if she would have heard you, she could have just called what is it called? A child protective
Child Protect,
service.
yeah, CBS, yeah, yeah. I mean, it
So
was a different time, to be sure. And I think, I mean, have you ever been there? I've definitely been in that spot where I've been in a store or a restaurant and seen a child get like hit in a way that didn't feel like appropriate discipline. You know, so I think it's hard.
I've seen it, but you see where I'm coming from, I understand it.
Right.
Now, it cannot get out of hand. Like my dad got out of hand with me. So I kind of know. But there's a lot of people where there was, the mom is spanking the kid because you can tell that the kid is just not behaving. They're doing a huge deal in the store. So the mom will grab him by the hand and just be like, "You better stop." You know how it goes, right?
Oh.
And then you have the person that's standing next to her be like, "Oh my God, you better not lay a hand on that kid." I mean, where, I don't think government should get involved in that. And certainly I don't think other people should get involved on other people's life. I think it should be private, but it's a really, really touchy subject because what if the kid is being
Abused, yeah,
getting abused, right?
neglected. I think you're really touching on like cultural differences too, because
Yeah.
I think, um, I mean, we used to even talk about like I grew up in a part of Pennsylvania where we still had like there was like the parts of town that had like a lot of Polish families and the parts of town that had a lot of Italian families and then the parts of town that had a lot of Irish families, and each like little subpart had their own reputation for how they handled their parenting and their discipline. So it is interesting, I guess, as our country becomes more of a melting pot, right? um that makes it a really tough call.
For sure. No, I would really like to hear from our viewers and our listeners, their funniest story that they can tell.
Oh,
Pretty
please,
cool.
please.
But I wanted to bring it even a little bit deeper, like real conversation. My wife and I, born in the same city, same country, or should I say same country, same city. But she was raised completely different. She never got spanked. Never got spanked. So now that we both have a kid, she's on the one extreme side and I'm in the other. But this raises issues. It raises issues like when it's enough because I'm less tolerant. She's more patient. Um, so it also has an effect on the parents on in marriage. To be honest with
Oh
you.
yeah. Oh, for
So this
sure.
is this is a kind of like a different topic that I'm slowly trying to blend in with our conversation. But man, there's some times where you know I try to put a little bit of discipline. I try to say, hey, I had it up to here, and then the wife will come swinging in and be like giving her input, right? Like, no, wait, and that's the point where things sometimes could get ugly because it escalates. And it's not even your kid's fault, right? It's just escalating because now there's somebody else involved, and it's difficult as well. I don't know if you had those type of issues happen to you.
Oh, I mean, we definitely did. Tom and I struggled. There was a season in our life where we really struggled, and parenting was the root of it. Um, I mean, we separated. It was only for 2 weeks, thank goodness. But it was hard. It was really hard, and I want to be honest about that. Um, my kids would say that most people know Tom as just being super super easy going.
Chill, the
He is
chillest guy,
very
coolest
chill.
cat. Yeah,
But there's basically two settings on Tom Burritt: super chill, laid back, and losing his mind, angry. Like there's not really anything in between, and there's not much warning if you're about to get this. So
gotcha.
what would happen is there would be this slow pressure cooker build in our house of like me and one of the kids or all of the kids kind of going at it, and Tom's like not saying anything, quiet on the sidelines until he reached his limit, and then would sort of explode, and then the kids would just be shell shocked, like where did that come from? So that was hard too, because sometimes I was like, I wish you had stepped in earlier. Like I hate that we had to get to that level before the explosion. um and it's hard when you've got like that brings the whole question of good cop bad cop parenting. Like, why is one of us the fun parent and the other one is the the policeman. Like
Right.
and that's hard too. And I do think that's kind of like a natural thing. I think in every couple, one is like more naturally one and one is the other. I think that I seem to hear that a lot. But it can be really tough.
You know, our solution nowadays, because you live and you learn, our solution is really not to step in. If you blew it, you blew it. But, you know, the wife pulls me to the side, or I pull my wife to the side, because there is times where she loses her patience as well, right? So I either step in afterwards and just try to have a normal conversation with her, and likewise, it goes the other way around, and then said, hey, I think we could have done this differently, and not in front of the kid.
Yeah, I think that's
The
great.
kid is already asleep or she's playing somewhere else, and then we'll have a normal conversation versus trying to correct the parent right then and there when we're having in front of the kid. Yeah, that's what makes me gets me going, and just it's not the best part of the day when that happens. But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I would love to hear how other parents are doing, but at the end of the day, I know that everybody's different and everybody has their own process. And maybe, there's some new parents, new couples that are going to be parents here pretty soon. So, that this could be an advice. They can always reach out to us, and we'll be more than happy to provide our experiences.
Our experience is good, bad, ugly. I actually,
Good, the bad, and the ugly.
one other thing I wanted to touch on was that, because I feel like this is something that you're just not quite to the stage yet. When our oldest was in high school, it was really hard. It was a very, very stressful time. She still was super strong-willed. And she was so stressed out. And so she would take out her anger and frustration, usually on me. And I know that because she felt safe, right? She knew there was nothing she could do that was going to separate me from her. Like, I was her mom. I was unconditional. I was there. But there were times that I so desperately wanted Tom to step in and protect me. I was like, I wanted protection from my own teenage child. And he just felt like that was dangerous for his relationship with her. Like, that was like a whole nother thing. Like, what do you do in that situation? Because I wanted the support, but he just didn't know what to, he was sort of like frozen. Like, I don't know what to do. And then I have watched my own dad, poor guy, be in that position where my mom and I are fighting, and my dad is upset for both of us, but like literally doesn't know what to say because both relationships are important to him. So that was like a weird dynamic that I was not expecting. The unique parts of parenting, but I also feel like that plays into whether or not it's the same gender child and parent. So in other words, my female child was really hard for me as a teenager, but so far the boys have been a breeze by comparison. And I guarantee you my husband would say the opposite. Kayla was rough, but it was rough for him on the sidelines. Their relationship was pretty good, but he has struggled with the boys because I think they're all male. They have similar interests, and so they're butting heads. So I would be really, interested to hear if other people are having that same experience.
So you think it's more related to the gender, or to having, or to like the oldest, youngest type of deal?
I think it's probably both, or it may even just be how they're wired. So Kayla and I are the most alike in our personalities. So we struggled the most when she was a teenager. And Aiden and Tom are the most alike, and they had a rough time in high school. I mean, they love each other. They're super close. But sometimes I think it's just, I used to say, to tell my brother, it's like when you're raising yourself. So whichever kid is most like you, it can be really hard to face the younger version of yourself and all of your flaws and all of your issues and all of your insecurities. And so to be forced with it, so.
And then in different times. That's a great topic. I really liked it. And man, I really can't wait to hear what people have to say, like as far as their stories and what's going on in their lives. That's going to be pretty cool.
Well, and for
What's the
next
topic?
next time, I think this is great, like a great segue to it is we're going to just be talking about mental health. And I think that we can be talking about mental health of our kids, but us too. So just mental health in general, like where we at. We've not lived through a pandemic before. So yeah, so just some talk about that, a real honest conversation about mental health, because I think that that's important and hopefully helpful. So that's the plan.
Cool. Well, thanks for everybody for listening and jumping into our podcast. Appreciate that. We look forward to seeing you next week.
Yeah, check out the Red River Cafe. All right.
Yeah, please. Peace out.